The discovery. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before the Zarkonian exploration vessel, Starweaver. Its sleek, silvery hull glinted in the light of distant stars as it gracefully navigated through a field of asteroids. Captain Selma stood on the bridge, her four eyes scanning the holographic displays surrounding her. Her tall, willowy frame was tense with anticipation. "Status report," she commanded, her voice a melodic trill. First Officer Vextor responded promptly, his tentacles dancing over the control panel. "All systems nominal, Captain. We're approaching the coordinates of the anomaly." The anomaly had piqued the interest of the Zarkonian Science Council, an unusual energy signature, faint but persistent, emanating from this unremarkable sector of space. It was the Starweaver's mission to investigate and report back their findings. As they drew closer, the ship's sensors began to pick up more detailed information. Selma's eyes widened as she processed the data. "It appears to be some kind of vessel," she mused aloud. "But the design is unlike anything in our database." The Starweaver's powerful scanners probed the mysterious object, revealing its secrets layer by layer. It was small, barely large enough to hold a single occupant. Its hull was composed of materials that seemed primitive by Zarkonian standards, yet it had somehow survived the harsh vacuum of space for what the initial scan suggested was an extraordinarily long time. "Life signs detected," Vextor announced, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Faint, but present." Zelna's four hearts quickened their pace. A living being, preserved in the cold emptiness of space. This was beyond their wildest expectations. "Prepare the tractor beam," she ordered. "We're bringing it aboard." The Starweaver's hold opened, and the small vessel was gently drawn inside. As soon as it was secure, Selna led a team to investigate. They approached the object cautiously, their environmental suits protecting them from any potential contaminants. Up close, the vessel was even more intriguing. It was clearly a stasis pod of some kind, designed to preserve its occupant for long-term space travel. But its design was crude compared to Zarkonian technology. Almost archaic. "Can we open it?" Selna asked the ship's chief scientist, Zorlath. The elderly Zarkonian studied the pod's control panel, his wrinkled face furrowed in concentration. "I believe so, Captain. But I recommend we transfer it to the medical bay first. Whatever is inside may require immediate attention." Zelna nodded her agreement, and the pod was carefully moved to the medical bay. There, surrounded by the most advanced medical technology the Zarkonian Empire had to offer, they prepared to open the mysterious vessel. Zorlath manipulated the pod's controls with his dexterous tentacles, and with a hiss of escaping air, the top panel slowly lifted. As the mist cleared, the Zarkonians leaned in, their eyes widening in shock and disbelief. Inside lay a being unlike any they had ever encountered. It was bipedal, with 2 arms and 2 legs. Its skin was pale and smooth, without the iridescent scales that covered Zarkonian bodies. A tuft of dark filaments grew from the top of its head, and its face was flat, with a protruding nose and small, recessed eyes. What is it?" Vextor asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zorlath's eyes gleamed with excitement. "I believe, if the ancient records are to be believed, this may be a human." The word sent a ripple of shock through the assembled crew. Humans were creatures of myth and legend, a species that had allegedly destroyed itself millennia ago in a cataclysmic war. Their home planet, Earth, was said to be nothing more than a toxic wasteland now. Yet here, against all odds, was what appeared to be a living, breathing human. "Is it alive?" Selna asked, her voice filled with wonder. Zorlath consulted the medical scanners. "Yes, Captain. It's in a state of deep hibernation, but alive. The pod's stasis field preserved it perfectly." Selna made a decision. "Wake it up," she ordered. "But be cautious. We don't know what to expect." The medical team worked diligently, carefully bringing the human out of stasis. As they worked, Selma couldn't help but marvel at the being before her. If this truly was a human, it represented a scientific discovery of unparalleled importance. The Zarkonian Empire would be eager to study this creature, to unlock the secrets of a species long thought extinct. Suddenly, the human's eyes fluttered open. They were a startling blue, like the oceans of the Zarkonian homeworld. The creature blinked, confusion evident on its face as it took in its alien surroundings. Then, to everyone's surprise, it spoke. The words were incomprehensible, but the universal translator implanted in each Zarkonian's brain quickly deciphered them. Where am I? Who are you? Zelna stepped forward, her hearts pounding with excitement and trepidation. I am Captain Selena of the Zarkonian exploration vessel Starweaver. We found you drifting in space. Can you tell us who you are? The human's eyes focused on Selena, widening in shock at her alien appearance. But to the captain's surprise, the creature showed no fear. Instead, a look of determination settled over its features. My name is Alex Chen, the human said, its voice growing stronger. I'm a soldier of Earth's last defense force, and I need to know, how long have I been asleep? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Selena exchanged glances with her crew, unsure how to respond. How does one tell a being that its entire world, its entire species, is thought to be long gone? But before Selena could formulate a response, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Vextor rushed to a nearby console, his tentacles flying over the controls. Captain, he exclaimed, we're picking up multiple ships on an intercept course. They're not responding to hails, and their weapons are charged. Xelna's military training kicked in. Battle stations, she ordered. Prepare for possible hostile engagement. As the crew rushed to their positions, Selena turned back to the human, Alex Chen. To her surprise, the creature was already sitting up, its eyes alert and focused. Looks like you could use some help, Alex said, a grim smile on its face. I may be out of my time, but I'm guessing some things never change. Mind if I lend a hand? Selena hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She had a feeling that this human might be more than just a scientific curiosity. It might be their best hope for survival. As the Starweaver prepared for battle, Selena couldn't help but wonder. Had they awakened a long-lost relic of the past, or had they just lit the fuse on a new era of galactic history? The answer, she suspected, would soon reveal itself in fire and steel among the stars. Awakening and assessment. Alex Chen's mind raced as he took in his alien surroundings. The medical bay of the Starweaver was a marvel of technology, far beyond anything he had ever seen on Earth. But despite the shock of waking up in such an environment, surrounded by beings that looked like something out of a science fiction movie, Alex's military training kept him focused. Captain Selena, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. I need a sitrep. What are we dealing with? Zelna's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, surprised by the human's composure and apparent readiness to help. 3 warships, unknown origin. They're not responding to hails and are on an attack vector. Alex nodded, his mind already formulating strategies. What are your ship's capabilities? Weapons? Defenses? As Selena quickly briefed Alex on the Starweaver's systems, the human's eyes lit up with understanding. The technology was advanced, but the principles of space combat, it seemed, were not so different from what he had trained for. All right, Alex said, swinging his legs off the medical bed. Let's get to the bridge. I might be able to help. Selena hesitated for a moment, then nodded. This human was an unknown factor, but right now, they needed all the help they could get. As they rushed to the bridge, Alex's mind whirled with questions. How long had he been in stasis? What had happened to Earth? But he pushed these thoughts aside. Right now, survival was the priority. They arrived on the bridge just as the first volley of enemy fire struck the Starweaver. The ship shuddered, but its shields held. Return fire, Selena ordered. Evasive maneuvers. Alex watched the battle unfold on the holographic displays, quickly grasping the situation. The Starweaver was outgunned and outnumbered, but it was more agile than its attackers. "Captain," Alex said, an idea forming in his mind. "Your ship's faster and more maneuverable, right? We can use that to our advantage." Exelna turned to him, curiosity evident in her alien features. "How so?" Alex grinned, a fierce light in his eyes. "Ever heard of the thatch weave? It's an old Earth tactic. Here's what we do." Over the next intense minutes, Alex guided the Zarkonian crew through a series of complex maneuvers. The Starweaver danced through space, using its superior agility to force the enemy ships into compromising positions. When the dust settled, 2 of the attacking vessels were disabled, and the third was in retreat. The bridge erupted in cheers, the Zarkonians celebrating their unexpected victory. Zelna turned to Alex, her eyes shining with a mixture of gratitude and fascination. "That was impressive," she said. "Where did you learn such tactics?" Alex's smile faded slightly, a haunted look passing over his face. "Let's just say humanity had its share of wars. We learned to be creative when outgunned." As the adrenaline of battle faded, the reality of Alex's situation began to sink in. He was alone, possibly the last of his kind, in a universe that had moved on without him. "Captain," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "I think it's time you told me what's going on. How long was I in that pod? What's happened to Earth?" Zelna exchanged glances with her crew, then nodded solemnly. "Perhaps we should discuss this in private. Please, follow me to my ready room." In the relative privacy of the captain's ready room, Selma broke the news as gently as she could. Earth, as Alex knew it, was gone. A catastrophic war had rendered the planet uninhabitable thousands of years ago. Humanity, as far as the galaxy knew, had perished along with their homeworld. Alex listened in stunned silence, his mind struggling to process the information. Everything he had known, everyone he had ever cared about, was dust in the cosmic wind. I don't understand," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our mission. We were supposed to be humanity's last hope, a failsafe in case the worst happened." Helena leaned forward, her alien features softening with sympathy. "Can you tell us more about this mission? It might help us understand how you came to be here." Alex took a deep breath, centering himself. It was called Project Lazarus. As Earth tore itself apart in war, a group of scientists and soldiers were chosen to be preserved in stasis pods. We were launched into deep space, programmed to awaken if we ever encountered intelligent life. The hope was that we could either find a new home for humanity, or, if the worst had happened, ensure that something of Earth survived. He paused, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "Guess we were too late on both counts." Telna reached out, hesitating for a moment before placing a comforting hand on Alex's shoulder. The gesture, so human despite coming from an alien being, nearly broke Alex's composure. "Perhaps not," Zelna said softly. "You may be the last of your kind, Alex Chen, but your survival is nothing short of miraculous. The knowledge you carry, the spirit of humanity that lives on in you, that is invaluable." Alex looked up, meeting Selma's four-eyed gaze. "What do you mean?" "The galaxy has changed much since your time," Selma explained. "The Zarkonian Empire is but one of many civilizations. We pride ourselves on our technological advancements, our scientific knowledge. But today, you showed us something we have forgotten. The ingenuity, the adaptability, the sheer determination of humanity. These are qualities that could change the course of galactic history." As Selma spoke, Alex felt a spark of hope ignite within him. He might be the last human, but perhaps that didn't mean the end of humanity's legacy. "What happens now?" he asked. Zelma's expression turned serious. "Officially, I am required to report your discovery to the Zarkonian Science Council. They will undoubtedly want to study you, to learn everything they can about humanity." Alex tensed, memories of old sci-fi movies about alien abductions flashing through his mind. Zilna, noticing his discomfort, quickly continued. But after what you did for us today, I believe you've earned the right to choose your own path. If you wish, we can keep your true nature a secret for now. You could join our crew, help us explore the galaxy. Perhaps in time, we might even find traces of other human survivors. The offer hung in the air between them. Alex's mind raced with the possibilities. On one hand, the thought of being a scientific specimen was less than appealing. On the other, the chance to explore a galaxy he had only dreamed of, to perhaps find others like him. Before Alex could respond, the ship's alarms blared once again. Vexter's voice came over the intercom, urgent and worried. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Zarkonian High Command. They're ordering us to return to the capital immediately. Something big is happening. Zelna's expression hardened, her earlier warmth replaced by the stern visage of a starship captain. Understood. Set course for the capital, maximum speed. She turned back to Alex, indecision clear in her alien features. I'm sorry, but it seems our time to decide has been cut short. Whatever is happening, it's significant enough to recall all exploration vessels. We'll have to continue this discussion en route. Alex nodded, his military training kicking in once again. I understand, Captain. Whatever's going on, I'm at your disposal. It's the least I can do after you saved my life. Unrest and escape. The Starweaver streaked through space, its engines pushed to their limits as it raced towards the Zarkonian capital. In the days since Alex Chen's awakening, the human had become an object of fascination for the alien crew. His quick thinking during the battle had earned him respect, and his strange appearance and tales of Earth had piqued their curiosity. Alex spent much of his time on the bridge, working closely with Captain Selna and her crew. He was determined to learn as much as he could about this new galaxy he found himself in, and the Zarkonians were eager teachers. So let me get this straight, Alex said, studying a holographic map of known space. The Zarkonian Empire controls most of this sector, but there are other major powers out there. Exelna nodded, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Correct. The Velderi Confederation to the galactic north has been our primary rival for centuries. Then there's the Quilathi Dominion to the east, the Nexus Collective to the south, and various smaller powers scattered throughout. Alex's brow furrowed as he absorbed the information. The political landscape was complex, reminding him of Earth's own tumultuous history. And where do the Zarkonians stand in all this? Are you at war? Exelna hesitated, her iridescent scales shimmering with unease. Not officially, no, but tensions have been rising. There are factions within the Empire that believe we should take a more aggressive stance. Before Alex could probe further, Vextor interrupted. Captain, we're receiving another transmission from High Command. It's Emperor Zarkon himself. The bridge fell silent as the imposing figure of Emperor Zarkon materialized on the main view screen. Even through the holographic projection, the Emperor's presence was commanding. His scales were a deep, royal purple, and his 4 eyes gleamed with intelligence and ambition. Captain Selena, the Emperor's voice boomed. Your presence is required for an emergency council meeting upon your arrival. We face a grave threat to the Empire's security. Zelna bowed her head respectfully. Of course, Your Majesty. We'll be arriving within the hour. The Emperor's gaze shifted, focusing on Alex. His eyes narrowed. And what is this creature on your bridge? Alex felt the weight of the Emperor's scrutiny, but he stood tall, meeting the alien ruler's gaze without flinching. Zelna quickly intervened. Your Majesty, this is Alex Chen, a consultant we picked up during our last mission. His tactical expertise was invaluable in repelling an attack on our vessel. Emperor Zarkon's expression was unreadable. I see. Very well. Bring him with you to the council meeting. I'm most curious to hear more about this consultant. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Alex turned to Excelna, his face grim. "I've got a bad feeling about this, Captain." Excelna's scales rippled with concern. "As do I, Alex. As do I." The Zarkonian capital was a marvel of engineering and artistry. Massive crystalline spires reached towards the sky, their facets reflecting the light of the system's twin suns. But as the Starweaver descended towards the Imperial Palace, Alex couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. The council chamber was a grand, circular room, its walls adorned with holographic displays showing real-time data from across the Empire. Emperor Zarkon sat upon an elevated throne, surrounded by his advisors and military leaders. As Selna gave her report on the Starweaver's encounter with the unknown hostile ships, Alex studied the faces of the assembled Zarkonians. He recognized the signs of stress, of barely contained panic. Something big was happening, and these leaders were scrambling to respond. When Selna finished her report, Emperor Zarkon leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Alex. "And now, tell us about this, human. How is it that a member of a long-extinct species came to be on one of our ships?" Alex stepped forward, his military bearing evident as he addressed the alien leaders. He gave them a concise summary of his origins, of Project Lazarus, and humanity's last-ditch effort to survive. As he spoke, he could see the reactions ripple through the council. Some looked fascinated, others skeptical, and a few looked calculating, as if already considering how to use this new information to their advantage. Emperor Zarkon listened intently, his expression inscrutable. When Alex finished, the Emperor was silent for a long moment. "A remarkable tale," he finally said. "If true, it could change much of what we thought we knew about galactic history. But more pressingly, it seems your arrival is fortuitously timed, human." The Emperor gestured, and a large holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of Zarkonian space, with angry red markers indicating points of conflict. "We stand on the brink of war," Zarkon declared. "The Veldari Confederation has been probing our borders, testing our defenses. We believe they are preparing for a full-scale invasion." Alex studied the map, his tactical mind already analyzing potential strategies. But something felt off. The Veldari movements seemed too obvious, too predictable for a species capable of interstellar warfare. "Your Majesty," Alex said, choosing his words carefully. "If I may, these Veldari movements, they don't look like the prelude to an invasion. They're too scattered, too unfocused. It's almost as if they're responding to provocations." A new voice finished. All eyes turned to the speaker, a Zarkonian with deep blue scales and a cybernetic implant over one eye. Alex recognized him as Admiral Vexkar, the head of the Imperial Navy. Vexkar stepped forward, his posture tense. "Your Majesty, honored council members, I can no longer remain silent. These Veldari movements are indeed responses to our own covert operations along the border." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Emperor Zarkon's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Explain yourself, Admiral." Vexkar stood his ground. "For months, we have been conducting secret raids into Veldari space, disguising our ships as pirates or mercenaries. The goal was to provoke the Veldari into a war, one that would allow us to expand our territory under the guise of self-defense." Alex listened in growing horror as Vexkar laid out the details of the plan. It was chillingly familiar, the same kind of warmongering that had led to Earth's downfall. Emperor Zarkon's face was a mask of fury. "This is treason, Admiral. You have acted without authorization, risking the safety of the entire Empire." But Vexkar wasn't finished. "I acted with the full knowledge and support of members of this very council," he declared, his cybernetic eye scanning the room. "Members who believed that the Empire had grown soft, that we needed a war to reassert our dominance." The chamber descended into chaos as accusations flew. Alex watched as the facade of unity crumbled, revealing the deep divisions within the Zarkonian leadership. In the midst of the uproar, Alex felt a light touch on his arm. He turned to see Selna, her eyes wide with urgency. "We need to leave," she whispered. "Now." Alex nodded, understanding immediately. Whatever happened next, it wouldn't be safe for either of them to be caught in the crossfire. As they edged towards the exit, Alex's enhanced hearing picked up a fragment of conversation that made his blood run cold. The human could be the key. With its knowledge of warfare, we could. Alex didn't wait to hear more. He grabbed Selma's hand and broke into a run. Alarms blared as they raced through the corridors of the Imperial Palace. Behind them, they could hear the shouts of guards and the heavy thud of pursuing footsteps. "We need to get back to the Starweaver," Selma panted as they ran. Alex's mind raced, recalling the layout of the palace they had passed through earlier. "This way," he said, pulling Selma down a side passage. They emerged onto a landing platform, the Starweaver gleaming in the light of the setting suns. But between them and safety stood a line of armed Zarkonian guards. "Halt!" the lead guard shouted. "By order of Emperor Zarkon, you are under arrest." Alex's eyes darted around, assessing the situation. They were outnumbered and outgunned. But then he saw it. A control panel for the platform's atmospheric shield. "Selna," he whispered, "when I give the signal, run for the ship. Don't stop for anything." Before Selna could respond, Alex lunged for the control panel. His fingers flew over the alien controls, relying on the crash course in Zarkonian technology he'd received over the past few days. The guards opened fire, their energy weapons scorching the air around Alex. But with a triumphant cry, he slammed the final control. The atmospheric shield flickered and died. Suddenly, the thin air of the Zarkonian homeworld rushed onto the platform. The guards, caught off guard, stumbled and gasped for breath. "Now!" Alex shouted, grabbing Selma's hand once more. They sprinted for the Starweaver, the ship's entry ramp already lowering thanks to the quick thinking of Vextor, who had been monitoring the situation from the bridge. As they tumbled into the ship, Alex shouted, "Go! Get us out of here!" The Starweaver's engines roared to life, and the ship shot into the sky, leaving the chaos of the Imperial Palace behind. As they broke atmosphere, Alex finally allowed himself to breathe. He looked at Selena, saw the mix of fear and exhilaration in her alien eyes. "What now?" she asked. Alex's expression hardened with determination. "Now we find the truth, and we do whatever it takes to stop this war before it starts." As the Starweaver vanished into the depths of space, neither Alex nor Selna realized that their actions had just set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the galaxy. The last soldier of Earth was awake, and the stars themselves would tremble at the changes he would bring. Alliance and rebellion. The Starweaver streaked through the inky blackness of space, its engines pushed to their limits. Inside, the mood was tense as Alex Chen and the crew tried to come to terms with their newfound status as fugitives from the Zarkonian Empire. Alex stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the starfield rushing past. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. In the span of a few days, he had awakened from millennia of sleep, learned of humanity's extinction, and now found himself embroiled in an alien conflict that threatened to engulf the galaxy. Captain Selna approached, her iridescent scales shimmering with concern. "Alex, we need to talk about our next move. We can't run forever." Alex nodded, turning to face her. "You're right. We need allies, and we need a plan to stop this war before it starts." Vextor, who had been monitoring the ship's communications, spoke up. "Captain, I've been intercepting transmissions from across Zarkonian space. It seems our escape has caused quite a stir. There are reports of unrest on several worlds, factions within the military questioning the Emperor's actions." A glimmer of hope sparked in Alex's eyes. "That's it. We're not alone in opposing this war. We need to find these dissenting factions and unite them." Zelna's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of deep thought. It's risky, but you may be right. I have an old friend, Zariel, who leads a research outpost on the fringe of Empire space. She's always been critical of the military's influence on policy. She might be willing to help us. Alex grinned, the first real smile since their daring escape. It's a start. Set a course, Captain. It's time we build ourselves a rebellion. The research outpost on Novus Prime was a stark contrast to the gleaming spires of the Zarkonian capital. Nestled in the shadow of a massive dormant volcano, the facility was a jumble of prefabricated structures and improvised additions. As Alex and Selna made their way through the winding corridors, they could feel the curious stares of the outpost's inhabitants. Many had never seen a human before, and Alex's appearance caused quite a stir. They found Zariel in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex data streams. The scientist's scales were a pale lavender, and she wore a set of multi-lens goggles that made her 4 eyes look comically large. "Selna," Zariel exclaimed, embracing her old friend. "When I got your message, I could hardly believe it. And this must be the human I've heard so much about." Alex extended his hand, remembering at the last moment that Zarkonians didn't shake hands. He awkwardly turned the gesture into a wave. "Alex Chen, it's a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Zariel." Zariel's eyes twinkled with amusement and curiosity. "Fascinating. I have so many questions about your species, your history. But I suspect you're not here for a scientific interview, are you?" Zelna's expression turned serious. "No, old friend. We need your help. The Empire is on the brink of war, and we may be the only ones who can stop it." Over the next hour, they briefed Zariel on everything that had happened. The scientist listened intently, her expression growing grimmer with each revelation. "This is worse than I feared," Zariel said when they finished. "I'd long suspected that certain factions within the Empire were pushing for expansionism, but to manufacture a war, it's unconscionable." Alex leaned forward, his voice urgent. "We need to gather allies, people who oppose this war. We intercepted transmissions suggesting there's unrest in the Empire. Do you have contacts who might help?" Zariel removed her goggles, rubbing her eyes thoughtfully. "I might. There's a network of scientists, philosophers, and even some military officers who have been growing increasingly concerned about the Empire's direction. We call ourselves the Harmony Collective." Zelna's eyes widened in recognition. "I've heard whispers of this group. I had no idea you were involved." Zariel nodded. "We've had to be careful. But with what you've told me, it's time we take a more active role. Give me a few hours to contact some key members. We'll need to move quickly if we're going to make a difference." As Zariel busied herself with secure communications, Alex took the opportunity to explore the outpost. He found himself in a large greenhouse, filled with alien plants of all shapes and colors. The sight reminded him painfully of Earth, of the lush forests and vibrant ecosystems lost to time. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind him. Alex turned to see a young Zarkonian, her scales a soft green that seemed to shimmer in harmony with the plants around her. "I'm Vila," she introduced herself. "Dr. Zariel's assistant. You must be the human everyone's talking about." Alex nodded, a wry smile on his face. "Word travels fast, I see." Vela's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Is it true what they say, that you fought in wars on your homeworld?" Alex's smile faded, replaced by a haunted look. "Yes, I did. More than I care to remember." Vela stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Then, do you think we have a chance? Against the Empire? I mean, many of us here, we've never even held a weapon." Alex looked at the young Zarkonian, saw the mix of fear and determination in her eyes. It reminded him of the fresh-faced recruits he trained back on Earth so long ago. "Wars aren't always won by those with the biggest guns," he said softly. "Sometimes, it's the strength of your convictions, the power of your ideas that makes the difference. And from what I've seen, You have plenty of both. Vela's posture straightened, a new resolve evident in her bearing. Thank you, Alex. I think I needed to hear that. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Selena. Alex, Zarl's made contact with the Harmony Collective. They're sending representatives. We need to prepare. Over the next few days, the research outpost became a hive of activity. Ships arrived under the cover of darkness, bringing dissidents, scientists, and even a few military defectors from across Zarkonian space. Alex found himself at the center of it all. His unique perspective as an outsider, combined with his military experience, made him a valuable advisor. He worked tirelessly, helping to organize the disparate groups into a cohesive resistance movement. In a large conference room, converted from a storage area, Alex stood before a diverse group of Zarkonians. Soldiers stood side by side with scientists, bureaucrats with fringe philosophers. All were united in their desire to prevent the looming war. We face a daunting task. Alex began, his voice carrying across the room. The Empire has vast resources, a powerful military, and the element of surprise. But we have something they don't: the truth. He activated a holographic display, showing the evidence they had gathered of the Empire's warmongering. Our first task is to get this information to the Zarkonian people. They need to know that the war they're being led into is based on lies. Zaril and her team have developed a plan to hijack the Empire's communication networks. A grizzled Zarkonian military officer, Admiral Kolvar, spoke up. And what of the Veldari? Even if we expose the Empire's deception, they may still see us as a threat. Alex nodded, acknowledging the concern. That's where you come in, Admiral. We need you to make contact with moderate factions within the Veldari Confederation. If we can get them to the negotiating table, we might be able to defuse this situation diplomatically. As the meeting continued, plans were made, roles assigned, and a spark of hope began to grow among the assembled rebels. Later, as Alex stood alone on a balcony overlooking the alien landscape of Nodus Prime, Selena joined him. You've given them hope, she said softly, something many of them haven't felt in a long time. Alex sighed, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Hope is a start, but it won't be enough. We're asking these people to risk everything. Their careers, their lives, their families. And for what? An ideal of peace that may not even be possible. Selena placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. For a better future, Alex. Isn't that what your people fought for? Isn't that why you were sent into the stars? Alex turned to her, a small smile tugging at his lips. You know, for an alien, you've got a pretty good grasp on human nature. Zelna's scales shimmered with amusement. Perhaps humans and Zarkonians aren't so different after all. Their moment of levity was interrupted by an urgent call from the command center. Vexter's voice crackled over the comm system. Captain, Alex, you need to see this. They rushed back inside to find the command center in an uproar. On the main screen, a news broadcast was playing. The image showed Emperor Zarkon addressing a massive crowd. And so, in light of these treasonous acts, I hereby declare martial law across the Empire. All dissent will be crushed. The war with the Veldari is inevitable, and we shall emerge victorious. The crowd's roar was deafening, a mix of patriotic fervor and fear. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He turned to the assembled rebels, saw the shock and dismay on their faces. This changes everything, Admiral Kolvar said grimly. With martial law in effect, our task just became infinitely harder. But Alex's mind was already racing, formulating new strategies. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the growing panic. No, he said firmly. This changes nothing. In fact, it might just be the opportunity we need. All eyes turned to him, a mix of confusion and hope on the alien faces. The Emperor just showed his hand. Alex explained. He's scared. He knows that if the truth gets out, his warmongering plans will crumble. This act of desperation will only fuel the doubts already growing in people's minds. He turned to Zarel. How soon can we be ready to broadcast our message? The scientist's eyes gleamed with determination. Give me 12 hours to make final preparations. Alex nodded, then addressed the entire group. All right, people, this is it. In 12 hours, we launch our first major operation against the Empire. We're going to tell the truth, and we're going to do it loudly. As the rebels dispersed to their assigned tasks, Alex felt a familiar tension building in his gut. The calm before the storm, the moments before battle when everything hung in the balance. He looked around at these aliens who had become his comrades, saw the determination in their eyes. For the first time since waking in this strange future, Alex felt truly alive. The last soldier of Earth was going to war once more, but this time he was fighting not just for humanity's legacy, but for the future of an entire galaxy. The final confrontation. The rebel base on Novus Prime hummed with nervous energy. In the command center, Alex Chen stood surrounded by holographic displays, each showing a different facet of their audacious plan. Zarkonian rebels moved with purpose, making last-minute preparations for what could be the most important broadcast in galactic history. T-minus 30 minutes to transmission, Zarel announced, her voice tense but steady. Alex nodded, his eyes scanning the room. He saw determination on every alien face, mixed with fear and hope. It reminded him of moments before battle on Earth, so long ago. Status report, he called out. Admiral Kolvar stepped forward, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. Our operatives are in position across key worlds in the Empire. They're ready to amplify our signal and protect civilian uprisings. Vextor, manning the communications array, chimed in. We've identified a weakness in the Empire's cyber defenses. When we broadcast, they won't be able to shut us down quickly. Zelna, standing at Alex's side, added, the Veldari moderates have been contacted. They're standing by, ready to call for a ceasefire if our plan succeeds. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything they had worked for came down to this. He turned to address the assembled rebels. I know many of you have doubts. You're wondering if we can really change things, if one broadcast can stop a war. He paused, making eye contact with as many as he could. I'm here to tell you it can. I've seen it happen. On my world, in my time, words and ideas toppled empires. The truth, spoken boldly, has power beyond measure. He gestured to the displays around them. What we do here today isn't just about stopping a war. It's about shaping the future of your civilization. It's about choosing what kind of galaxy you want to live in. The room fell silent, hanging on his words. Alex's voice grew softer, but no less intense. I am the last of my kind. Humanity is gone. Our world lost to the same kind of conflict we're trying to prevent here. Don't let that be your fate. Today, we fight not with weapons, but with the most powerful force in the universe, the truth. A ripple of determination swept through the room. Backs straightened, eyes hardened with resolve. Zeryl's voice cut through the moment. 2 minutes to broadcast. Alex nodded to Xelna. You're up, Captain. Your people need to hear this from one of their own. Xelna stepped up to the broadcast station, her scales shimmering with a mix of nervousness and determination. Alex gave her a reassuring nod as the countdown began. Transmission in 3, 2, 1. We're live. Across the Zarkonian Empire, on countless worlds and space stations, regular broadcasts suddenly cut out. In their place appeared the face of Captain Xelna, her expression solemn but resolute. Citizens of the Zarkonian Empire, I am Captain Xelna of the starship Starweaver. What I am about to tell you will shock you, anger you, and perhaps frighten you. But it is the truth, and you deserve to know it. Over the next several minutes, Xelna laid out the evidence of the Empire's warmongering, the manufactured conflict with the Veldari, and the desperate grab for power by Emperor Zarkon and his allies. As she spoke, The rebel technicians fought a digital battle against the Empire's cyber forces, keeping the broadcast alive. On the streets of Zarkonian worlds, crowds gathered around public view screens, watching in stunned silence. "We stand on the brink of a war based on lies," Selna continued. "A war that will cost countless lives and destroy the peace we have worked so hard to build. But it is not too late to choose a different path." The broadcast cut to footage of the rebel base, showing Zarkonians of all backgrounds working together. It showed Alex, the human awakened from the past, working alongside his alien allies. "We are not alone in this fight," Zelma's voice continued over the footage. "We have allies, even among species we once thought lost. Together, we can build a future based on truth, cooperation, and peace." As the broadcast continued, reports began flooding in from across the Empire. Protests erupted in major cities. Military units stood down, refusing orders to suppress civilian uprisings. The carefully constructed facade of imperial unity began to crumble. In the imperial palace on the Zarkonian homeworld, Emperor Zarkon watched the unfolding chaos with growing rage. "Cut off that broadcast," he roared at his technicians. "Arrest the traitors. Deploy the fleet." But his orders fell on increasingly deaf ears. More and more of his subjects were choosing to listen to the voice of truth. Back on Novus Prime, the rebels watched as their message spread like wildfire across the Empire. But their victory celebration was cut short by an urgent alert. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Vextor called out. "It's an Imperial battle group." Alex's military instincts kicked in immediately. "Shields up. Evacuate non-essential personnel to the bunkers." Admiral Kolvar rushed to the tactical display. 5 capital ships, dozens of fighters. "They'll be in weapons range in minutes." Alex's mind raced, considering their options. They had some defenses, a few old ships, but nothing that could stand up to a full Imperial battle group. Then, an idea struck him. A crazy, desperate idea, but one that just might work. "Zaril," he called out. "The dormant volcano near the base. How dormant is it exactly?" The scientist blinked in surprise. "It's been inactive for centuries, but the magma chamber is still there." "Why do you ask?" A grim smile spread across Alex's face. "Because we're about to wake it up. Here's the plan." The Imperial ships descended through the atmosphere of Novus Prime, weapons charged and primed. In the lead ship, Admiral Vexkar stood on the bridge, a look of grim determination on his face. "All ships, prepare to fire on my command," he ordered. "We'll burn out this nest of traitors once and for all." But as they approached the rebel base, something strange happened. The ground beneath the facility began to rumble and shake. Cracks appeared in the earth, spreading outward like a spiderweb. "What in the name of the Empire is happening?" Vexkar demanded. Before anyone could respond, the dormant volcano exploded into life. A massive plume of ash and smoke shot into the sky, accompanied by rivers of molten lava. The sudden eruption caught the Imperial ships off guard, buffeting them with shockwaves and filling the air with debris. "Evasive maneuvers," Vexkar shouted, but it was too late. The Imperial formation broke apart as ships desperately tried to avoid the volcanic fury. Some were struck by flying boulders, others had their sensors blinded by ash. In the chaos, they didn't notice the small, swift ships that emerged from hidden hangars in the mountainside. Alex sat in the cockpit of one of these ships, a retrofitted Zarkonian fighter. He led a squadron of rebel pilots, weaving through the ash cloud with a precision that left their Imperial pursuers baffled. "Remember the plan." Alex's voice crackled over the comm. "We're not trying to destroy them. Just keep them off balance until our reinforcements arrive." The rebel ships darted in and out of the volcanic plume, striking at the Imperial vessels with hit-and-run attacks. They targeted sensors, weapons, and engines, gradually wearing down the larger ship's defenses. Admiral Vexkar watched in growing frustration as his mighty battle group was slowly picked apart by a handful of outdated fighters. "This is impossible," he growled. How are they doing this? The answer came in the form of a new alert on his tactical display. Sir, his sensor officer called out. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. It's the Veldari fleet. Vexkar's heart sank as he saw the Veldari ships appear, but to his shock, they didn't open fire. Instead, a transmission cut through the chaos of battle. This is Admiral Jorak of the Veldari Confederation, a stern voice announced. We have come in response to a call for peace. All ships are ordered to stand down immediately. The Rebel Command Center. A cheer went up as they received the transmission. Selna turned to Zaril, her eyes shining. You did it. You got through to them. Zaril nodded, a tired but satisfied smile on her face. Sometimes, all it takes is for someone to be willing to listen. As the Veldari ships took up positions around the embattled Imperial fleet, the fight slowly ground to a halt. Ship by ship, the Imperial vessels powered down their weapons. Alex guided his fighter back to the rebel base, his heart pounding with a mixture of exhilaration and disbelief. As he climbed out of the cockpit, he was met by Xelna, who surprised him with a very human-like hug. We did it, she said, her voice filled with wonder. We actually did it. Alex returned the hug, allowing himself a moment to savor the victory. But he knew their work was far from over. This is just the beginning, he said softly. Now comes the hard part, building the peace. In the days that followed, the galaxy witnessed unprecedented changes. Emperor Zarkon was removed from power, replaced by a provisional government that included representatives from the rebellion. Negotiations began with the Veldari Confederation, laying the groundwork for lasting peace. Alex found himself at the center of it all, his unique perspective and experiences making him a valuable advisor in the rebuilding process. But as the immediate crisis passed, he felt a growing sense of restlessness. One evening, he stood on a balcony of the new government building on the Zarkonian capital world, watching the twin suns set. Selma joined him, sensing his mood. You're planning to leave, aren't you? She asked softly. Alex nodded, not surprised that she had guessed his intentions. There's still so much I don't know about this galaxy, about what happened to Earth, to humanity. I need to find out if there are others like me out there. Zelna's scales shimmered with a mix of sadness and understanding. I always knew you weren't meant to stay in one place. You're an explorer. Alex Chen, in more ways than one. Alex turned to her, a warm smile on his face. Come with me, he said. The Starweaver needs her captain, and I could use a friend out there in the unknown. Zelna's 4 eyes widened in surprise, then crinkled with joy. I thought you'd never ask. As they stood there, watching the stars emerge in the alien sky, Alex felt a sense of peace he hadn't known since waking in this strange future. He was the last soldier of Earth, yes, but he was also a bridge between worlds, between past and future. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity's last son was ready to explore it, with new friends by his side, and the lessons of the past to guide him. As the Starweaver prepared for its next journey, Alex stood on the bridge, Selna at his side, and a crew of Zarkonians and Veldari working together in harmony. He looked out at the starfield before them, endless possibilities stretching out to the horizon. Where to, Captain? Selna asked, a twinkle in her eyes. Alex grinned, feeling the familiar thrill of adventure. Wherever the stars take us, he replied. We've got a whole galaxy to explore, and who knows, maybe we'll find a few more lost humans along the way. As the Starweaver's engines hummed to life, Alex felt a sense of anticipation. This wasn't an ending, he realized. It was a beginning. The last soldier of Earth had found a new mission, a new purpose, and the best part was, this time, he wasn't alone. The ship leaked into hyperspace, carrying its diverse crew towards new adventures, new challenges, and the promise of a brighter future for all.